All right, my name is Jaslyn, and I'll be presenting on communism and Vladimir Lenin. So, what is communism? Communism is a political ideology based around a social and economic system in which all means of production and resources are controlled by the community. Ideally, this would create a classless and communal society in which all individuals in the society contribute to and benefit from the community. So, who is Vladimir Lenin? Vladimir Lenin was one of the most influential figures in the development of communism, especially in Russia. He grew up in a middle-class family and was highly influenced by his older brother, Alexander. Alexander's hatred for the Tsarist system at the time led to him attempting to assassinate the Tsar, eventually causing his own execution. This allowed for Vladimir himself to gain more hatred for the political regime and become an underground revolutionary plotting to end the regime. He worked as a lawyer in St. Petersburg, and during that time was a leader in the Marxist circle. So what was the setting that led to the worldview of this influential figure? Well, Russia at the time was a highly oppressive state. The people had little freedom, and any political opposition was viewed as a threat and eliminated on the spot. It was additionally a semi-feudal society that held a more agricultural economy. Most of the common people were peasants, and there was an oppressive hereditary nobility in place. All of this resulted in an atmosphere of secrecy and the development of conspiracy. Because of this very oppressive setting Lenin grew up in, and that forced him to watch the execution of his own older brother, Lenin developed a very harsh worldview. He viewed everything as a means to an end, anything that contributed to the intensification of the class struggle and the development of a revolution was a means to an end and was worth it, no matter how bad. For Lenin, he viewed violence as necessary for the occurrence of a revolution. All things were seen as necessary, no matter how bad. So what were his contributions to communism? Lenin held many. He was a leader of the Bolsheviks, the Communist Party within Russia, and he took a firm role in its development. He believed the working class suffered from trade union consciousness, in which they were influenced to believe that a few reforms were enough to fix current issues. Lenin believed it was the job of the Communist Party to stop this trade union consciousness, and instead the working class, and teach the working class and lead them in the right direction on what changes needed to occur. He additionally held many influential written works, one of them being Imperialism, the Highest Stage of Capitalism, in which he contested against imperialism and discussed how the working class of advanced capitalist countries were turning against other working classes due to trade union consciousness. Lenin emphasized that this is where the Communist Party's roles come into play in disrupting this consciousness. Therefore, he argued that countries that held a communist party that took a firmer role in leading them would be closer to a revolution than others who didn't. Lastly, Lenin was the leader in causing the eruption of the Russian Revolution. He contributed in helping the Communist Party seize state power and establishing a socialist state. Afterwards, he had to adopt less radical communist policies, such as the new economic policy. However, he stood fast as a leader in the Russian Revolution and the Communist Party overall that took power until his death. So, what does communism look like in America? Well, in the early 1900s, communist activists did play an important role in developing the American Union movement, where workers fought for better rights, and eventually victories did arise. Communist activists contributed to the creation of the Congress of Industrial Organization, and they aided in creating structure to organize unorganized workers. They were very successful up until the Cold War began and the communists began to be looked at as the enemy. The American people viewed the ongoing tyranny and political struggles that were occurring in countries like China and Russia. This caused them to see communism as a threat to their everyday lives and freedoms, leading to a growing fear of the political ideology. So why didn't communism take root in the US? Well, throughout the United States history, communism never took root for a variety of reasons, one of them being as we already discussed, the fear and hatred for it that sprouted during the Cold War. The political ideology was viewed as the enemy, hence the lacking presence of it within the country's development and its government. Additionally, the ideology of communism is in great opposition to many of the values installed in the US since its birth. The country has always been very capitalistic and held a focus on the individual freedoms of people. The birth of the nation itself sprouted from the lack of freedoms and rights people initially held. Hence, it makes sense why the American people would be so wary and hesitant to hand over so much power to the government, which communism requires. For these reasons, America has not seen much of a growing presence of communism in the country. So does Lenin's worldview hold a place in modern American society? Are his views and writings still relevant? The answer is a little. The culture of modern American society does not favor Lenin's worldview. Rather than a large violent revolution, slow reforms are preferred, and the United States holds great focus on the individual rights of the people, so it would be natural that using people as a means to an end would not be seen favorably. Additionally, as already mentioned, America is very firm already in its capitalistic roots, so there's little room for communist ideas to take place. However, such as the establishment of unions, there has been policies in place that align with communist ideals, such as unions, as I already mentioned. Also, the false consciousness discussed by Lenin is something that philosophers still discuss today. It is still contested as occurring through the development of mass media and corporations taking advantage of it as a commodity to enrich in themselves. Thank you for listening to my presentation. This has been Communism and Vladimir Lenin.